Welcome to the Spoiler Alert podcast with another episode of the Halloween Marathon. Today, we will be reviewing House from 1977. It was directed by Nobuhiko Obayashi. And House is a really weird movie. It's, considered an experimental horror film. Before we get into it, be sure to follow us on YouTube, wherever you can get podcasts as well, including Spotify and so on. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Spoiler Alert Podcast. It's Spoiler Alert Podcast for everything. Look for the logo you see here on our YouTube page. So House begins in the school, and House, guys, I don't think we're gonna strictly stick to the linear plot devices that we do in most of our videos, because House is just very inexplicable, besides the fact that they are schoolgirls that go to one of the schoolgirls' aunt's house, and then encounter hauntings. That's where we'll leave that for now. But the schoolgirls' names are Gorgeous, that's the aunt. It's Gorgeous's aunt that we're going to see. Kung Fu, Fantasy, Sweet, Melody, Prof, and Mac.
Now, Prof for short for professor, because she's the sort of piggy of the well, you have Lord of the Flies, the smart one. But actually, there's one who likes to eat alive. That's Mac. I don't know what that's for, Big Mac. I don't know why they call him Mac. But
honestly, I think so.
All right.
But they all it's kind of it's almost like the Seven Dwarves, where they're all named after the same.
Right. It's really surreal from the start. They're I was thinking there are nicknames, but it's no, then you catch on they're all really bizarre actual names.
And Gorgeous, her thing is being pretty, and a lot of their deaths line up. Spoiler alert, some of them die. All of
horror movie.
Their deaths, some of them seem a little more on the random side. Some of them are very much related to what their personality is, almost like Willy Wonka.
That's something I was thinking Augustus Gloop, he likes to eat a lot of Farouk. So that popped into my mind. And then there's a sort of fairy tale element to it, but I don't know what the lesson to extrapolate at the end is. Normally you have that in your Grimm's fairy tales. Here I have no fucking clue, but so
at the end of it, really, it's a love story, I think.
Yeah, that tends to be how these Japanese things end. And it's about love. I'm okay, I don't know where that's coming from, but yeah. So.
I noticed the connection more this time, but yeah, it was weird. It barely made sense, if it made sense at all. Okay, so Gorgeous, she's pretty. Kung Fu, she's really athletic and a fighter. Fantasy, she's daydreamy. She drifts off, makes fantasies in her head. Sweet, she's bubbly and kind of dumb, or at least I should say incapable.
Well, it's
incapable for handling the situation of a house eating you alive.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem though. So fantasy's kind of spacey headed, but given all the weird surreal imagery, it's you're kind of in the same zone she is. Sweet,
fantasy actually thrives in this house a little bit. Fantasy actually thrives in a little bit of this house a little bit. It's really Sweet that doesn't stand a chance.
Right.
We'll get into it a little more, but Sweet ends up getting killed by mattresses.
Yeah, it's like a pillow fight from hell, basically. So yeah.
But there's Melody, who is, a musician. There's Prof, who's the smart one and capable in that way. And there's Mac, who her characterization is just she eats a lot. And then also the name of the cat is Blanche. The cat comes into play later. So they all are going to Gorgeous's aunt's place because they're kind of making a summer vacation out of it. But Gorgeous's dad also kind of wants them to go there because the aunt's been alone ever since, she's kind of a loner or whatever. So There's some backstory about the aunt, which we may as well get into now. Her husband during World War II, I would assume, was killed.
He promised he'd come back and then never did, I think was the thing. So she's waiting for him still. And she doesn't believe he's dead. She just thinks he's missing, or whatever after all this time. So
yeah, basically the big catch of like a lot of the movie is that she can only wear her bridal gown when basically they've like eaten people, I guess.
Well, yeah, we're skipping it. It's like a weird Elizabeth Bathory thing. I mean, like where I don't know, she needs to feed on young unmarried women to sustain herself long enough to live for her husband to come back, I think is ultimately the premise. I could be wrong. I think she's trying to
or they're just connecting each other's spirits or something like that, like reuniting their spirits.
All right, maybe I missed that. I thought she's just trying to stay alive long enough for him to come back, and he never will.
Yeah, it could be either way, I guess.
The only other thing I can think of, where like at the very beginning, there's setup, and there almost seems to be a plot, and then that just evaporates pretty quickly. But I think there might be one message in terms of her father. She's angry at him because he's going to remarry, because her mother had died 8 years ago, and she's remarrying, I think. So I think there's something about moving on there, and the aunt never could move on, and it turns into a horror story. Maybe I really don't know what the hell the movie means.
But yeah, I mean, it's a weird one. Like there's a trippy train at one point, like on their way to visiting the aunt. That's when we get the flashback to the fiance. The village, there's like a village below the house, and that has like a lot of fruit and some of the weirder characters. Like it might be the weirdest B plot in the history of film. Specifically the A plot. The A plot kind of could function in a lot of other horror movies.
Sure.
The fucking B plot in this movie with the people down in the village. Holy shit. Guys, everyone at home, House is also one of those movies where, smoke them if you got them.
Yeah. Or drop it if you got it. I mean, it's actually, no, it might be a really bad trip. I don't know.
I guess if you're around good people, maybe it's not bad.
What's it? Yeah, around other people, so that you don't tear your eyes out.
People you like, maybe not.
You're gonna have a spotter. What's that?
You need a babysitter. Yeah, get a babysitter. Do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I mean the subplot is like it's sort of Lynchy, and I don't think it even goes anywhere. They just like the guy turns up as a pile of bananas at the end. That's actually better than Lynch, because usually just like he'll never follow up on it. So at least we do find out what happened to the guy. He turned into a mound of bananas in his car. So we did at least.
He just seemed to be behaving weird when they talked about fruit and talked about going up to the house, like, oh, she hasn't eaten in a while or whatever it was.
Didn't a fight emerge at like a standing soba noodle stand shop?
Yeah, there was some weird shit going on in that B plot. It's funny and it's wild, but yeah, I don't know what's going on. That's not a negative necessarily. I'm just saying I don't fucking know. A chandelier, like almost as soon as they get into the house, attacks Kung Fu, but Kung Fu stops it with her karate and gets away. Right after that, Mac was out messing around with a well. She was basically refrigerating a watermelon that they got from the townspeople by putting it down this well and
which is
kind
a
of
recurring
keeping it in cool water.
Visual motif. There's deep, significant meaning to the watermelon. It's I won't spoil it for you. I mean, I know what's going on with it, but I think it's best for the audience to really read into that and figure it out on their own, because it's much more rewarding that way. But anyway.
But then Mac doesn't show up for a while, and people are like, fuck it, maybe she's out there eating something. And then one of them ends up pulling up the rope to the well, and then it's just Mac's head, and they freak out, and then the head like bites her ass at some point. I think
she gets bundied by a decapitated head. Yep. So and the effects are so weird. Like I don't know what they're doing, like composite shots with the like where it looks like really bad green screen, and
Yeah,
the
like
effects are just really off.
more often in this movie than others, does it really seem clear that like they're like with the dissolves and with the splicing and the taking like a piece of frame and just fucking gluing that onto the film. Like basically, it just it's just a very unique aesthetic for sure. And for the record, it was Fantasy's ass that Max had
Oh
bit.
yeah, we should specify.
That's what I want. That was important. Kung there's also a bathhouse scene at this point. Important to know.
Oh yeah.
And then Kung Fu was attacked by logs, and once again she fights them off.
All the weird shit that's happened already at this point in the movie, like it picks up pretty quickly where things are a little off in this house. I mean, again, being attacked by logs, severed heads, and I'm like, and they all just kind of dismiss it as, oh, it must have been the wind. It must have been my imagination. It's like fucking blood's coming out of the fountains. They're drinking it, and nobody seems to notice. It's just like
Auntie danced with a skeleton, and then Melody isn't killed yet, but is clearly getting possessed by a piano. Sweet is just straight up killed by falling mattresses.
Yep.
Because she's the softest of them all.
Crushed to death, I guess, by a soft mattress. But yeah.
So far the deaths are Sweet being killed by mattresses, because that's kind of like a soft ass way to go, really. And then there's Mac, whose death was directly related to food, which is her thing. Gorgeous is possessed by a mirror. She basically ends up being possessed. I don't know at what point she actually dies, but she is permanently a part of the house now.
I got confused. I didn't know if like somehow Gorgeous is the reincarnation of her aunt the whole time. Like
I think it was Gorgeous whose body she like took or something.
Yeah.
Right. She took over her body because she was the gorgeous one,
Right.
But like at this point, she's effectively dead. And at which point also it being a mirror correlates with being gorgeous and whatever, everything that entails. Very odd frame rates throughout the movie. They change frame rates on us. Like
I thought there was a streaming problem. I was like, was this? I couldn't remember. Is this what happened? But then it would pick up. And it's fucking weird. Yeah, it's really disorienting. It's like a bad trip. Everything just starts to go whoa, and you're like, what the fuck? And then it picks back up, slows down.
And then Melody is straight up eaten by the piano. Just fingers chopped off, and then she still starts playing again, and then her hands are chopped off, and she's like, oh no.
Yeah, I'm thinking how incoherent this must sound, and normally we might skip a beat sometimes and get it wrong. I don't think we are here. I really think we're hitting the notes of the movie as they come. It makes about as much sense.
Kung Fu and Prof see Sweet in a grandfather clock, which is also like telling you that when you die, you become part of the house.
It's almost like, what is it, Cinderella, which one is it? Whatever Disney movies where you have like the inanimate objects that are, personified. Did the girls actually become integrated into, like, which one was it where you had the broom has its own fucking Disney movie, Beauty and the Beast maybe, or
Beauty and the Beast. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like that. They actually become fixtures in the house. Yeah. So one's absorbed by the piano, the well, I guess that's what you're saying. I just picked up on that actually.
Something like that. Like you become part of the house. It is what I've seen. Some are more powerful than others. Like some just stand in a wall or have their head in the fucking bottom of the well. Or Gorgeous is in the walls. Like she's like almost like projected on the walls at points, because again, she's part of the house too. Auntie eats unmarried girls so she can wear a gown for I don't know how long, but basically for her long lost husband's spirit. Then Kung Fu kicks some more ass. Right after that, she's killed by a chandelier, which was the first thing that tried to kill her. That one is the first one that, to me, she became part of the house because her head was floating around in fucking chandelier land. But that was the first one to me where, like, I feel like a chandelier has nothing necessarily to do with being athletic.
Yeah, I didn't really hang it
Unless
around.
like her athleticism, oh, she overdid it, and because she ended up like jumping into it.
She's electric, right? Because or something. I don't know because her bottom half there's like electricity shooting.
Electrolytes,
What's it?
electrolytes,
Oh, there we go.
like Gatorade
Electrolytes and stuff. Yeah.
or Powerade, or whoever
Right.
wants to sponsor this video. Aid. Fantasy and Pro are the only ones left, and there's also this cat that's behind me that's called Blanche, who was like a real cat, but then it's part of the house as well. So being the aunt's cat is fucking freaky as all hell, and it's like a flat like wallpaper look where it's just like screaming at them like and
Yeah, creepy cats and cat people and stuff. That seems to be a staple of a lot of Japanese horror. Plus,
the house gets flooded with cat blood, and then Prof and Fantasy have to like
they're
fucking
floating on the tatami mats or whatever. And
yeah.
So
Prof loses her glasses, which is kind of a nerd way to go.
Yep.
But like a weird like pipe or like a can like came out of the blood and it had teeth on it and like grabbed her and pulled her in, and she drowned in the cat blood.
Yeah, it's almost like a submarine. What do you call those scope things? I just
Periscope. Yeah,
periscope. Yeah, stuff like that. It's fucking weird.
Fantasy paddles over and sees Gorgeous at these doors or at a stairway. So she paddles over and is caressed by Gorgeous, but then the viewer sees like a weird like fucking cut between Gorgeous and it being the aunt, and Gorgeous and the aunt, because it's one and the same at this point. And the aunt has her tit out, and then the townspeople are all turned to fruit.
She's resting on that tit on the bosom. I think
she's resting on the bosom.
Yeah, but
resting on the bosom. Yep. Like you said before, the townspeople in the B plot turned all to fruit. That was a weird fucking scene too. You just got to see that one. The stepmom is killed by the possessed Gorgeous. So the stepmom that's getting married to Gorgeous's father
shows up looking for the girls and
then they kind of have this weird like scene moment where they like sit down and look like they're gonna meditate or do something. Like
it's for some reason it sort of evoked Psycho to me. Like I don't know, or I think her just in the car with the scar. Maybe I'm misremembering Psycho, but apparently the mandate was make Jaws, which I'm not seeing at all, except the severed limbs, maybe, or vaguely, or like Jaws. So it was like, go make a thriller, and I don't know how they
there
came.
Was some underwater nudie scenes.
Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, there's the Jaws connection. So.
But that basically ends the movie is when the stepmom is killed. I actually forgot even how she was killed, but
she touches her and then she's like, curses, no, Gorgeous. And she dissolves her or like burns away or melts or something.
Yeah, she melted or something like that.
Vanishes, disintegrates. So, yeah.
And this movie ends as being a love story.
Right. In the ending monologue, yes, it was something about love. I remember that.
For long lost love from World War II.
Yeah.
Now be with him. She can be with him now.
It was really touching.
So that was the movie. It's a fun one. It's a good one to have people over with. It's a good one to get high and watch. It's a fun movie. It's technically classified as J-horror, which we've done a video on. What do you think about your just general impressions about House, Dakota?
Definitely one of the weirder movies you could watch. It's like it's the film equivalent of an acid trip. That's what it's known for. The effects are also kind of infamous because they look awful, but by design, it's so chaotic too. I mean, like just the visual things they're doing. I don't even know where to begin. And this, I mean, the camera's always it's like a Gaspar Noé movie, maybe. I mean, like just how disorienting and like maybe not quite that bad. There's not like strobe lights. Actually, I don't know. It's trying to disorient you and fuck you up on a visual level at all times. The plot disintegrates basically. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's a fucked up movie. But fun. It's fun, weird. Have a spotter. You might, even without drugs involved, you might end up trying to claw your own eyes out. So make sure there's somebody with you to stop you.
But everyone that has brought up House has talked about how it is at least like a top 5 weirdest movies they've ever seen. And these are like some fucking nerdy people like us, Dakota. And it's all consistently top 5 weirdest fucking movies they've seen.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Repo Man. Yeah, I put that on. I think what is in Duluth. That's up there. But yeah, House probably top 5 for me too, as far as just absolutely fucking weird.
Yeah, it like I don't see it really moving. I could see myself seeing something weirder, but I cannot also say that at the same time that I have. Like I can't say that I've seen something weirder.
Yeah, and I've watched a lot of Japanese shit, and it gets fucking weird, but it's still, yeah, it probably holds its place in a top 5 spot, you know. So,
but I deeply appreciate this movie. My rating for it is a resoundingly positive 4 stars. Does that like I feel like it's just hard for me to dignify it 4.5.
Yeah, I don't know if I could go. I mean, mine's a little lower. It's like I was gonna go maybe even as low as a 3 if you don't have an appreciation for what you're about to get yourself into on any level. Like just from like
yes, you know, you don't have your friends with you, you're fucking right. Sober, you haven't watched an experimental film before. I'd agree it's probably lower. It's like a 3.
Right. 3.5 for me. I like just, you know, I'd say just because I don't know. I mean, yeah, it just depends on what you're looking for. Like, you know, on a visual level, I mean, it's probably a 5 just because how fucked up it is. It's a really hard one to score.
And I kind of rank movies too on like 3 main criteria, and it's weighted differently for every movie. Mm-hmm. So there's 3 main criteria. In some cases, they're more important than others. I think just the pure quality of the story and like the movie itself, like quality of the movie.
Right, that's where you get on the lower end of the spectrum with House, because I have no idea what the story is.
And then entertaining.
Much higher.
How entertaining is it? I think this is hella entertaining.
Right. So
the third one is, did it seem like they had fun making the movie?
Yeah. So
and I would say it achieves very strongly in 2 areas. They had fun making it. Seems like they had fun. I could be wrong. But and then the entertaining. And it still does enough in the actual true quality to me give it a 4-star.
Yeah, I mean, if you know what you're getting yourself into, a 4. Otherwise, yeah, like a 3.5, you'll probably be caught really off guard. I mean, unless you know that this is just highly experimental, visually bizarre film, but entertaining as hell, really. So
what are some of your recommendations to the people at home, Dakota, for people that would be interested in a movie like House?
It really stands alone as like there isn't much like it, but some weirder Japanese sort of horror film. I'll start with the one that isn't Japanese. I think Evil Dead is probably that's a horror comedy, you know, really weird visuals. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if Raimi might have. I don't know how you'd be able to see House at around that time, because I mean, you know, but I know, I mean, he did the Grudge remake or produced that. So let's see, Uzumaki, which is a adaptation of a Junji Ito manga. It follows the plot fairly closely, but the tone is really different because it's almost impossible to do a live action version. So the tone is really weird, like it is in House. It's like bubbly and over the top and really weird. The same director did another Junji Ito adaptation the same year called Long Dream. Let's see, Koji Shirashi. He did like this sort of found footage Japanese horror trilogy with Noroi the Curse in 2005, Occult in 2009, and then just Cult in 2012. And the middle one, Occult, gets like weird and Lovecraftian, and they have to visually depict what hell looks like. And there's really no way to do that, especially on a budget. So they just go the House route of like these really ridiculous like special effects that some people might see as a total letdown after all the buildup, but I think it's just like such a weird visual choice. And I'm pretty sure it was probably inspired by House. Oh yeah, Marabito is another one. Again, it's kind of weird and Lovecraftian. That's Takashi Shimizu, who did the Ju-on the Grudge. And again, the visuals evoke House, where they look cheesy, but it's kind of creepy at the same time. It's just bizarre, you know, and that'd be about it. I mean, but yeah, none of them are anything like House, except that they're really weird and have some strange visual elements. But House is its own beast. There's really nothing like it. So
my recommendations would be kind of left field. I would just recommend like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Alice in Wonderland. If you fucking do enough of the shit that you do when you watch House, do it when you watch those movies. Maybe a similar experience. Fucking, you'd be surprised about animated movies and how trippy they can get. Like the dancing elephants in Pinocchio.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, they do get pretty fucked up. So
be sure to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else podcasts can be found. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Please donate to our Patreon if you can. And on that note, guys, happy October. We're getting closer and closer to Halloween. Happy Halloween Marathon, everybody.